Hi, my name is Lisa Heinis, and Alessandra asked me to record a short video um, kind of introducing a project that I'm working on currently. But maybe start off with introducing myself. I'm Lisa Heinis. I work as a curator of education for the Museum Boijmans van Beuningen in Rotterdam, Netherlands. I have been working here for about a year and a half. Before that, I initially working in Brussels, where I'm from, but then I moved to San Francisco, where I finished my PhD in art history on the topic of institutional critique from more feminist lens. And I also worked part-time at the Waters Institute of Contemporary Art there on a research program called On Our Mind. Then I moved here, summer 2020, mid-pandemic, moved back to Europe, and I've been working in Rotterdam um, to kind of introduce and situate where the museum itself was at that time. So Museum Boijmans van Beuningen had been closed when I started for about a year for renovations, so nothing to do with COVID. But the building will be closed for quite some time still. So we don't have a museum setting at the moment, but we are preparing to opening a very big new space right next to it called DPE Boijmans van Beuningen, which is the collection building made accessible to some extent for the public. So we are opening the doors while still making sure that the art within is protected and safe. So we're trying to kind of finding that balance between audience, allowing audience members within the building, but also making sure that the art is safely stored for the eternity, as they say. So that's kind of where Boijmans at the moment is at. So for me, working as a curator of education, usually it's kind of making this bridge between the art and exhibitions and public. And I haven't had both for quite since I started. So it's been very, we're really in this project setting without public for some extent. We've done activities and stuff, but not in the same way as within the museum. And now with the collection building, it's all been planning, many Excel sheets, and now it's actually opening in a few weeks. So we're really in this moment of transition. But while we're doing this and making all of these plans, there's also a little bit of a smaller project that I would actually like to focus on today. Doesn't have really anything to do with the depot or the museum, but is one of the few things I've been working on that isn't site specific, that isn't making that bridge between something that like the collection building that is opening and that we have to let in audience members in, but kind of originated from a more self-reflective space on education called Artists as Educator. We work with a lot of artists at Boijmans, certainly also with, for example, art mediators in the educational department. And we're interested in exploring how far we can actually push the artistic sense of what educational can mean. The artist as education is a term that many have explored theoretically or more practically. Alessandra knows it well. She teaches also at Artis, which has a master called Artist as Educator. I don't want to kind of define what it means, but I think it is blurring the line between where one ends and the other starts. And there's many artists who kind of do that already. And we want to see with, together with a team of education, of how we can collaborate with artists who also see their kind of as education or learning or working with art with a group of people. How do we kind of collaborate within a project? So we started with asking them and giving them a very kind of open prompt to initiate a project of learning with the museum by means of an artistic approach and to see what kind of comes up. It's been a very interesting project to work on because it's very open. I don't necessarily have end goals as such. There's no products or artwork at the end of it, because the entire process is the artwork in a sense. So as a curator of education, it's been really wonderful to work with these artists. We've worked with two artists and one collective, Priscilla Fernandez, Seekem Chung, and Creative Studio. And we've just asked this, like, can we think together of what working as an artist slash educator and finding the boundaries between what is one or the other within a project. And then the product at the end will be a publication that kind of is more self-reflective on this process. So it would be nice to have some images or texts or whatever comes out of the project that they have set up. But in a sense, the main thing that I want is kind of this evaluation of how did we start working together? What was the process like? And what have we learned? If we, as a museum, would ask this question again, what would be next steps for us working with artists as educator? What worked, what didn't work? So Seekem Chung had decided to set up, well, we called it a series of workshops at the beginning, but it fully changed. She is working with this kind of a street in Rotterdam South called Beerlandslaan, which has a lot of shops on it. And she is in conversation with the shopkeepers and trying to be inspired by the tradition of photography and film to ask certain artists to capture one shop on the street from the point of view, like a starting point of art. This maybe sound a little bit complex, but it is, in a sense, exploring the how you capture a building. You can do it in very many ways, conceptual, technical choices that you as an artist can make. But there's this kind of added layer to that, and it's the people who work within these shops. And how can both of those first conversations with people, but also an art history and a tradition of film and photography can kind of influence the eventual captured image, or maybe not even image, is kind of where the process leads you. It might be an audio transmission or something completely different that kind of is the end product of these conversations with the shopkeepers. So that's one kind of trajectory that we're doing. Creative Studio are two, Roberto Vermeulen and Romy Zeng, who are working in Rotterdam always with kind of a group of creative people around them. And they are doing a artistic research with a few photographers and videographers, also in Rotterdam South. And they are exploring kind of what are ways that people already learn in Rotterdam South from just being on the street, or so not institutional setting, not an education, not a school, not an after-school program that you can follow, but something that is less institutional, but it has like a network within the city. For example, you have this idea of the now I have to look for an English translation for this word. The moms who open up their gardens for kids to safely play and all that stuff. They'll have conversations with these people and have like an artistic interpretation of that research that will be shown at Boijmans Hele, which is a space that we have in Rotterdam South, where there's not really a collection, but which is a space to collaborate with artists, show art, but also the community, and have many different projects that we're doing in that space. And then the third artist, Priscilla Fernandez, she is a Portuguese artist who works and lives in Rotterdam, and she is kind of the only one who's really responding to the idea of this collection building. of which many artworks will be on view, but also many won't, because they are very delicate. They cannot be within light. They are in a box stored somewhere. It is really a storage facility. It's not a museum, so not every artwork is displayed and visible to the audience as when walking through. It could be requested, but it isn't just like plainly visible when you walk through the building. So how do we kind of, as an education department, can respond to those works? And she isn't doing literal education of those artworks. We do that in an app and all the things that you might expect. But she is kind of responding to the situation from an artistic point of view. It is still, because this process is ongoing, it's still very clear what the eventual kind of artwork will be. But it is an artistic response to this lack of artworks and having audience members and how we can kind of bridge that gap. But it will be an artwork and not an educational tool in the strictest sense of the word. So I'm very excited, but you can really feel within this project that the conversations are very much ongoing. So project will 100% change throughout the process. And I have kind of learned that my job, in a sense, is one, to have those conversations and make time to make sure that I'm available to help out with the concepts and where things are going and if anything is necessary, but also to reassure the artists that I'm fine with this process changing throughout. It is really this path that we're all kind of walking, which is interesting to me because it is the thing that we will learn from. So at the end, I want to kind of hear and talk with all of these artists and have, I think I've made like a 1,500 word essay to really reflect upon their journey throughout this work collaboration with the educational department of a museum. Because we want to continue this type of project. We want to keep learning from artists as an educational department. And how we do that is really an ongoing search for us as well. There's a lot of theoretical publications and texts about the artist as educator and what it means, but there isn't a lot of like practical, as a museum education department, this is how you can collaborate with artists as educators. So this is really something that we are exploring in the practical sense of the word with artists themselves. And it's not always easy, but I've been really enjoying collaborating with them, having these conversations, and really seeing the process of setting up such a project shifts and change and move. And I'm hoping to have a really wonderful small little publication that I can share with you all afterwards of kind of the lessons to take from such an idea. Okay, well, can't wait to see you all at the conversation. Have a wonderful day. Bye.